hang around with Dahaka.
I was a little concerned when that game started, seeing those heroes swapped, and I
Mm-hmm.
was like, okay, so this is Tempo Storm essentially throwing out all the work that they've been venturing into, maybe why they are where they are, and just going like, well, now when we have locked in the playoffs, we're now going to change things back. So yeah, they did it strategically, how they should have, right? Much like a Fall said, we'll wait until 7 to get that lane swap so he has the advantageous laning situation. It was clever to see that out of Tempo. And it's even nicer knowing that they weren't willing to revert back to the original version of Tempo Storm.
What seemed really weird in that game was we were anticipating a lot of focus in trying to assist the top lane heroes from both sides, from Zeratul flanks and then from Genji flanks too. And for the most part, whether it was just that each was trying to respond to the other one and where they went, and that ended up just being that they were hanging out more mid-bot, it was still strange to see that top was not as much of a focus with those ganks.
Yeah, I do think a lot of that came down to the fact that even in Death, they didn't necessarily know how to respond to the staggered deaths levels 1 through 5 that we saw out of them. When the Zeratul ended up dying, they were kind of like, what do we do now? And again, with that June placeholder up on bottom, they never really kind of maybe punished the fact that one of the best wave clears to aid that, because we talked about the lethal of the 1-4, or at least the wave clear that it provided, only because wave clear, or because Rhaegar gives double lightning bond, right? He gives 2 shielding AoE clear, so ETC is effective, and he never was together, and even in Death not once was like, how do we punish this lack of pressure put outward? And I think that's because you talked about it, they split up and they never restored that balance, and that's a very common misplay that we see out of teams, especially at the lower section of North America, is when you lose a hero in the laning phase, how do you minimize your losses and also recover for, again, the experience disadvantage?
And that hero was very detrimental to the kind of composition that even in Death were wanting to run. Not having Garrosh isn't really a wave clear hero anyway. You can throw out a groundbreaker, but you're not going to be doing a whole lot there. And then you don't have the threat of pulls. If nothing else, even just the threat, maybe keeping people at bay. But I also give that to Tempo Storm slightly, because they were constantly sitting in the bushes with Medivh and with ETC, stopping him enough. And that was scary enough that even in Death were worried about losing out in the lane experience if they did keep the 4 together. So great job, Tempo Storm, and all fronts there. Before we get into game 2, let's take a look at our global progress cheer bar for HGC cheer. We're getting there, Dread.
We're moving on. We got that 22 million mark has been met, and we're bumping our way on almost 50% to that deadly Chaos Lizard. I say 50%, but we both know that's true. Only between Arcane and Chaos Lizard, but we're getting there. That's the point. We can all be thankful that we're going to get ourselves that. Mainly I'm looking for the Skinergy here, right? So I've got blue going on. I've got a different shade of blue. Now I need me some of the warmer colors here. Some oranges. Got to get something to represent with my favorite Li Ming skins.
Yeah, is it Li Ming that you were thinking about?
Li Ming, and really, most of the time I would say it's like Rhaegar's my go-to when I think about that, but then he doesn't have a mount, so it really doesn't matter.
Rhaegar's I was thinking about the Malfurion skins too, right? They have the Betrayer Malfurion, that cool orange and red one.
He has some of the dopest skins out of all the supports, like flat out. He's legitimately, before cool. Heroes 2.0, the only support I single-handed was like, I need every ounce of his skins. I just flat throwing my money at the screen. Blizzard, take it.
They're pretty good skins. You guys should check them out if you haven't seen them. Well, maybe we'll get another Malfurion this game. We had one last game. This game's going to be on Towers of Doom this time. Chosen by Tempo Storm. I've got a stat to throw at you, Dread, about Tempo Storm in Towers of Doom. Currently, Tempo Storm is 0-6 on Towers of Doom in Phase 2.
Can you maybe shed some light on why Tempo Storm is willing to pick Towers of Doom then?
I don't know. I would guess that because they want to make this 1-6.
Okay. Okay. Maybe that is, man. Do we know how many of that was them choosing it versus being taken to it? I might be.
I can.
All right, we're getting there.
Well, 3 of those games were this part. 3 were in part 1.
Okay.
In this part, everyone was chosen by Tempo Storm. Lost to Gale Force, Lag Force, all the forces, and the forces of stars, superstars. I tried.
You tried. It was a good effort there. So they've been volunteering to go in this direction and have struggled even against superstars here in the North American scene and still willing to commit it to it. So let's see maybe if we have a justification for it here. Tempo Storm looking for their ban after Abathur was removed for even in Death.
Well, knowing the style of composition that Tempo Storm has been trending towards, that melee heavy, a lot of focus on Genji, some focus on Falstad, so some globals, Dahaka. It makes sense that they would want to play on Towers of Doom. It's just the success has not been there for them to back it up.
Yeah, it is really interesting how that kind of works out when a map essentially plays to what should be your team's playstyles, but you aren't able to somehow make it translate. I personally have struggled with that in the past during my time of playing.
Yeah.
And It usually comes down to like you're missing one major small. Well, I say major small, but it's like a invisible almost, right? Like what isn't very clear at first glance. It's usually consistently you're making the same mistake in the same area, but you really got to dissect your games. Like very hard to be able to identify what that is because it can be as easy as like failing to prep a wave and pushing it into your opponents before turning in. Like it can be really simple, and why you can't play a map appropriately like somebody else.
That was an immediate example that you were able to pull up. Was that one that you struggled with?
Minion, not so much where the minion waves were, but which ones and what time. So on Tomb, like if I wanted to split pressure on bottom and I need immediate pressure within 30-second window, how far does the wave have to go? And if I fail to meet that, then my shot calling fails, right? Because I'm banking on split pressuring, and if you can't time it properly, essentially you just cannot essentially make the big plays.
Yeah, you brought that up so quickly that I had to check, but we're going to Towers of Doom here, even in death. First picks ETC, Genji, Malthael, that deadly duo for Tempo Storm, though.
Yeah, a lot of preparation with the Malthael and a lot of cleaning up there from the janitor that is going to be Genji. So much so that I know there's been people talking about janitor Leo, but I think I wanted janitor Genji. Can you imagine him swinging this mop around? Just cleaning up. Malthael, he preps everything. He's mudding the floors. Just with all, like, we're going to use the Tormented Souls. Let's just imagine that's like a lot of water on the ground. And then Genji just comes in and he's just like mopping that puppy up. And the whole team's just dead afterwards.
Now I'm going to know, what would the shuriken be? Like soap bubbles, maybe?
Yeah, like soap bubbles. He throws out the soap bubbles or something like that. Yeah, I'm trying to think protect. That's the biggest thing here. I want something like a wet floor sign. You know, like he puts on a wet floor sign or something.
Yeah.
We're getting there.
Okay, well, it's a work in progress, guys. You can let us know if you have any ideas for Janitor Genji using the hashtag HGC.
Just know that it has no effect on whether or not it's actually going to be implemented. This is just crazy thoughts from Dread here.
Next two picks for Even in Death. They are taking some time considering that Genji Malthael. They'll get Lucio to help with Malthael, help with Genji too. And then Greymane.
Standard Greymane there. No surprise to see him picked up. So what do we see out of Tempo? Do they want to ban themselves a false that it aids to the globals, and also with that Malthael up, it's a bit of a soft center or soft counter. We talked about it. I don't know. It's almost a hard counter because of how often in all cases I feel like the false set should pull head as long as there's no mistake, and that honestly is the description of a hard counter. So
yeah, the disengage of Gust would help a lot against Malthael and Genji. But Tempo Storm are still worried about double support. I am sort of surprised that they wouldn't want Uther for themselves, but probably it instead wants to be Rhaegar. But is there any concern that maybe Tempo bans Uther and then Even in Death would ban Rhaegar?
Yeah, there is definitely a concern that that they would ban that out. And that's why I'm really questioning this Uther ban too.
I saw the brow furrowed, so I was like, he's concerned about something
here.
this
I'm really struggling to see the argument here into the Uther ban. I mean, other than obviously you're like double support's scary, it's powerful. Yes, Uther Lucio.
Last second.
Uther Lucio is one of the strongest double supports in the game, if not the strongest. I personally feel it is the strongest. But I mean, look at that. Even in Death knew like it's worth the ban. Tempo, both their heroes synergize with Uther, so it didn't add up that much. So if they pull away from it. You know, they aren't committing to it. But it was a bit curious there for Tempo Storm.
Tempo obviously were not that interested in having Uther, considering how long they were thinking of the ban. So I think they're not too heartbroken about that ban. They still have Rhaegar.
Yeah, as long as they got a burst healer, that's the biggest thing for them. And again, you just talked about it though. If they banned out one, it's very easy to be, Even in Death, just remove them both. So we can assume a Rhaegar, but what else are we going to see in this rotation? Probably one of the main warriors. Since they have Malthael and they are considering anything into the side lane on the side of Even in Death, what can we see? Who's a beefy frontliner who can hold his own?
I was sort of thinking of a new Barak. Cocoon could ruin ETC or Lucio's day.
It denies, you know, the opportunity to pick it up into the Malthael if Even in Death maybe wants to go there. A Malfurion and a Medivh.
Ooh.
Tempo Storm's mixing things up a bit here with these two picks. Not too much. That's one of these adjustments that's out of their norm, but not out of the meta. What?
I just love Twilight Dream out of a portal.
Yeah, it's about one of the most satisfying
things. He just throws his hands up in the air and he's killed everybody.
In the words of a good friend, I'm a bird. That's what you say. Every time you Twilight Dream, everybody at home, I'm not even going to say who this is, but there's a good friend who always just goes, I'm a bird! And that's what you guys should do at home whenever you Twilight Dream, obviously. I'm glad we got that close up.
What about I'm a rabbit? Who is a rabbit? I forget.
That was a meme I think I posted on Twitter that you're thinking of here.
I knew who it was. Never mind.
Okay. Medivh and Malfurion, though, the portal, the bird. It's a double bird. It's a double bird. Can they both be a bird?
Across the sky?
All the way across the sky. Even in death, though, what do they want for themselves now? Ethereal really would add up for them. I feel like, honestly, it would make their composition very devastating, especially Ethereal Falsehead. They go with Ethereal. They're going to pick up a Lunara instead.
Look at that Servine hero happening. Like Tyrael Greymane together, though, and Tyrael ETC. Cross-supporting of Tyrael and Lucio, Sanctification and Sound Barrier.
He wants to play. It's going to be Stitches for Tempo Storm. They've got themselves the milk carton there with the Medivh, Malfurion follow-up, Genji, Malthael prep into team fights. Tempo Storm has bits and pieces of 2 core compositions, put them together to make a nice one for themselves. But I'm going to be honest, I like Even in Death's composition here. I'm not as convinced for Tempo Storm here. Again, they do have a lot of synergies and I can see it working out, but the more forgiving composition, in my opinion, falls that to Even in Death other than the Tyrael versus the Medivh. It's a big skill up matchup there. It's just whether or not Even in Death can match that of Psalm.
All about the Sanctifications?
All about the Sanctifications and the Sound Barriers, not stacking them. That's a huge... I mean, absolutely crucial point to be bringing up because of how fast Sound Barrier depreciates in value. It's almost, you absolutely need to get value right out the gates.
I mean, that's a scary anti-synergy that even the best teams in the world can have problems with. That happened from L5 and MVP Black today. The crossing of Sound Barrier and Sanctification ultimately led to a team losing a team fight from that, and they did have to make those adjustments. So the important thing is even if the first fight post-10, it does stack, that they are able to make adjustments and learn from that in the future fights. It's time for Game 2 between Even in Death and Tempo Storm. Let's head into Towers of Doom.
Again, the milk carton composition here of Tempo Storm, it has been a more common strategy within North America as time has moved on and as Medivh has risen in power. It used to be in a double support that or not a double support, excuse me, in a double warrior that we would see it, but we've seen more and more teams comfortable venturing towards that single warrior milk carton strategy, and that's where I feel like that forgiveness aspect kind of falls off. When you do move into that, the synergy between the Stitches Medivh has to be on point all games, or one of your assassins has to be more self-sufficient, more impactful without the enabling of the Stitches, and that could be the Malthael with a huge flank here. That would be a great indication or a great example, that's the word I'm looking for here, of what I'm trying to express. But Lutano, he's the first to get hooked in. No root connection for Tempo.
What you pointed out, though, is really important for Tempo Storm. It's not just reliant on that. If Psalm sees an opportunity for a fantastic leyline seal on a lot of the melee heroes for Even in Death, they have the opportunities for follow-up Tormented Souls, and then for setting up for a Dragon Blade from Genji. So there's 2 different ways that Tempo Storm can approach trying to get kills. But the second does come down to where Even in Death are at with things like Sound Barrier, with things like Mosh Pit 2, and then Sanctification of Tyrael. If those things are still up, that way of happening can be hard. So maybe the idea is even a milk carton to force something like Sound Barrier to come out, or Tyrael to Sanctification, and then after that, then the Tormented Souls and Genji Dream can begin.
There is... I don't even know if I want to risk this, but I've already brought it up. Let's go down the rabbit hole here. There is a world where Judgment doesn't fail in this type of game because it is the single warrior and there is no cleanse in the Malfurion in modern day. And honestly, everybody else is actually pretty vulnerable to the damage output of the members of Even in Death. I don't necessarily want to put it out of the realm of possibility that we see that picked up to help with that Medivh carton combination. You can, even if you aren't saving the individual who's getting torn away, if you just all in with the Judgment onto somebody else, you can go 1-for-1, kind of like an old school Tyrande strategy, where it's like, yeah, I might not win every fight, but I sure am going even. And that is really kind of all you need when you have a composition cooldown base like Tempo Storm, but a huge invade here on Sappers.
Even in Death do invade, and they found Psalm in a corner. They'll lose the Sappers, but they win it. Possibly 2 kills. June makes it behind the gate. There's minions too to block potentially more damage there, but he makes it back. Tyrael taking the top altar for Even in Death, the safe altar. Malthael's going to start to move into position to do the same. Even in Death still zoning away, and they will be able to get... Did they get the bottom?
Yeah,
no.
They got a double shine.
Yeah, they did.
They channeled immediately, both of them. Tempo Storm is just failed to rotate to the top left fast enough to maybe stand a chance of getting that double delay. So huge victories here for Even in Death. But Psalm's there. Portal, nice pull back on the battery. He is 1 dead Dryad. Do we get a root? Nope. June shows mercy here today. No Loon's Grace for him, so that wasn't even in the realm of possibilities. Interesting choice to see him go outside of the Elun's Grace there at level 4, going more Moonfire focused.
You know, the last time I saw this milk carton strategy was Team Freedom, and they played it versus Even and Death. We casted that game, and Even and Death dealt with it pretty well. That time they did have Falstad to gust the Stitches as soon as Zugrug did gorge somebody away from the portal, and that's not available this time, but something like a Holy Ground might be able to do the same. It's just getting to 16, making sure that Even and Death can keep up, and being able to get both of those shrines, that is a good start. How gets pulled in, Psalm sets that portal down. Stitches goes through, but Lutano zones for him. Excellent job by Lutano.
Yeah, very good power slide there for our new warrior, Lutano. Nobody trying to take those sappers, though. Temple Storm. Also, I want to shout out to Even and Death with the rotation they had over those last sapper invade. They didn't even start theirs because it has been so ridiculously predictable in North America to commit to those sappers within that time frame. So I just love to see a team kind of just go, I mean, if you're going to keep playing this cookie cutter style, we're going to direct counter that. They end up going over to their own sappers. We'll see if they try and get an invade on Tempo this time, too.
So we've seen a few hooks now for Tempo Storm and some roots to follow up. Even in Death has shown that they have a lot of mobile heroes. They have ETC who can power slide away. They have Hao, who even if Lucio gets rooted after the hook, as long as he lives, he can start boosting himself away with the speed boost. Lunara had problems with that. That may change at 10 if we see a leaping strike. Even Greymane has some mobility options too, and then Tyrael has Eldruin's Might. So it's all on Tempo Storm needing to make sure that the follow-up routes are right there and that they do have the execution to follow very quickly after the hook and the roots.
Maltho started that mid-channel, but Tyrael's there to be able to match him as the sappers are a bit of a focus. Portal's down for Tempo Storm. Hook land on a Frozen X. Root goes down. Battery's the focus, but no kill potential yet. Lutano hits himself a power slide, but Even a Death's got to get out of here. They are getting just poked to death by Tempo Storm. They're losing the fight on mid. They're losing the fight on bottom. It is not good for EID.
Malthael has pushed back Tyrael. Even in Death maybe can come around off to the side. Roots are going to slow that, and there's a portal to allow Tempo Storm to rotate just as quickly along with Even in Death. A boop from Hal pushes back. He does get hooked in, but June, or no, that is Fury. Caterpillar.
He's got a teleport still. He teleports into a corner even more so. Now Fury's trying to get away. Psalm's got a portal. Koth in both Cyber Agility and Swift Strike available. Used one. Hal, I respect your offense there, but that sound gun, I don't know the official name, is not enough to do the damage. And they get the Shrine. That was a big victory for Even in Death. It was very likely at the beginning that Tempo would claim both for themselves.
I think they call that the Beatmaker.
Is it really?
No, but I do.
But we're going with it? I like it. The Beatmaker, man.
You know how everyone has names
for your weapon?
For your weapon?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that one's, Lucio's is the Beatmaker.
The Beatmaker. I enjoy it. Also, I wanted to kind of bring a question here. Time Lost Wisp.
Yep.
How many times have you ever in competitive history seen Time Lost Wisp picked up?
The most frequent is Nimble, but I've honestly seen all of them somewhere in competitive. But it's definitely less frequent.
Can we make an argument for Time Lost Wisp in this game? Because I have one, and I'm not confident it's it. But why would you want a Wisp? So frequent. For anybody who doesn't know, Time Lost Wisp essentially makes your Wisp cost 0 mana, and it recharges 125% faster as long as your Wisp is dead.
You're thinking it for hooks, aren't you?
You wear hooks.
Yeah.
You just literally wait until the hook comes out, you sacrifice it, and you always have 100% uptime. It will essentially protect you from a hook as long as you're effective again with that. And it's not perfect, but let's be real here. There's very few trade-offs at level 4 for Lunara, as they are all Wisps.
Yeah, it is a weird talent tier for her, but there's a lot of good that can be done. I mean, you've got the Skybound, which once it's killed, it reveals a lot around the area, so it can give you a good idea of how many people are there, give you some ideas on rotations of your opponent's team.
Good juke there from Frozen X. June's been a little off with those roots throughout this game, but he also doesn't have Elun's Grace, so I'm trying to wonder how much of that is the lack of the range and the safety and him just going, you know, I can't move any farther, here's a root, see what happens, or is that just generally a misclick? That one seems like it almost was more on him, you know, to make sure he hits the spell.
He also doesn't have Hindering Moonfire, so there's no really follow-up for that other than just we're going to get in with a portal after, and as they're running away, you can get in and body block them all the way back. Another hook, another root.
Got Heroics online. One Shrine is all that all that stands here. Hao is going to be the first to channel. Psalm hovering above in Raven form. Genji unable to get the interrupt. That's going to be Medivh responsible for that one.
Fury moves up, takes a portal. Medivh's Force of Will, mistimes. That's a cooldown even in Death should try and abuse.
This is all about the hooks every 16 seconds. House starts again. Fury will have that very soon. Homicidal still there. It goes forward. Gorge.
That's Untitled. He has no Eldritch.
The team. Root's there to catch him after the fact as he uses the Sanct and the Sound Barrier at the same time. That's what we were afraid of, but Cawthon Luck still goes down. Even in Death, they're able to make this happen anyway. Caterpillar uses Tormented.
He uses Tormented Soul, but the Mosh Pit from Lutano hits 3 of them. Leyline Seal locks down 4. June has the Twilight Dream. Does he go with it? No, the Mosh Pit continues. It's impossible. They go down. I forgot he just stalled the inevitable. Gilly, even in Death now, they're on full retreat.
Frozen X! Hal's doing everything he can to stop Frozen X. Was hoping that he could dodge the Death Shroud, but with that, Caterpillar gets a Greymane kill. I loved the continues.
I just never even, I thought about it. I was like, okay, there it is. And then I was like, wait a minute, the Mosh is still going.
It's going to still go.
I forgot, this is still a bad time here. In the end, though, Tempo does get themselves the bottom shrine, and we saw the stacked use of Sound Barrier and the Sanctification in debatably one of the easiest to articulate which one should be going off situation. That makes me very scared for later team fights for even in Death. I mean, because that is one of those when it's just, I mean, you've got Gorge. You have all the time in the world to say, I'm going to use Sanct, or I'm going to use Sound Barrier. Then it hits the ground, you get 1 interrupt. I mean, there is a lot of downtime there. And we brought it up before the draft.
You get 1. That was it.
You get 1.
You get 1. And now you got to make sure the communication's unlocked for the rest.
21 seconds before that's back online. There's a hook, Gorge.
The portal was there, but Lutano, this is what I'm talking about. Making sure that Fury just cannot ever get to the portal with them, and he doesn't.
Very good job here. Lutano's becoming a bit of a problem here. We haven't even considered the fact that 13, if he goes for the multiple W's, if he hits multiple targets, that's going to be knockback on top of knockback here. Psalm is the first to be stunned. Hal gives him a nice on boop there, and he's going to portal right away.
Doesn't feel great to have to portal over your own sidewall, but it will keep Psalm safe, and now he's just about to get the 13. That will help. Speaking of Psalm, Master's Touch is done, so even if he had died, he at least has that done. There is 13, which means we've got Inevitable End. Cat will use it just to make sure that he doesn't get caught by even in Death.
One thing we haven't highlighted here either, Battery, hold up. He's pulled in. Leaping Strike in, Leaping Strike out. I thought Fury maybe had somebody Gorge there for a second. I was like, did I miss something? But he's just portal in, portal out. Is the lack of cleanse for even in Death. The only way they're reliably going to be able to get themselves that mosh pit is if that Sanct is used. So it does make more sense for Sanctification to be used to enable mosh pits effectively rather than being the playmaker on its own, dealing with that ley line. So Hal has to be the guy that goes, I'm saving everything. Sanctification's the one that goes, Tempo Storm's going to go down.
Fury might be going down here. Power Slide from Lutano used. Took about half damage.
Unable to connect with that hook. He had a perfect portal set up there. So now even in Death is primed here for this altar.
Lutano and Frozen X up in the front lines. Frozen X does have the greater Darklight and Disengage range of Running Wild. That'll help some. A nuisance on Hal, who was wanting to take that temple or altar.
Post 13, Medivh is such a big problem onto these altars, though. They can delay forever. There's only that second downtime between portals 1 and 2. Cawthon, man to go in with the Swift Strike. Battery's in a bit of a tough spot. Still has the Leaping Strike. He's going to go ahead and use it. Protect onto Genji, but keep in mind, Power Slide there. The root immediately after. June and friends keeping him alive, but they're in a bad spot now. They got the channel.
They did get the channel. Enough delay, enough distractics. There's no helping hand to help out June here. Lutano finally gets in a position where he can push back June, but Leyline Seal will be used to save
Gorge?
June. And Twilight?
Are we going?